Thank you all for joining. Happy Tuesday morning, or I will say good morning, good afternoon. Some of you may be on a different time zone. So wherever you are, thank you all for being here. My name is Isabelle Bart. I will be moderating this session. And so we're going to get started. We have a lot to cover, so I don't want to waste time. Thank you all for being on time this morning, this afternoon, and welcome again wherever you are calling from. So welcome to the French Cluster webinar about sustainability today. French Cluster is a pool of French-speaking experts based in the United States. We have extensive knowledge of the American market and want to offer a unique and original alternative to help our community succeed. Members are chosen from different professions and are selected based on their solid experience and proficient skills. Each of them represents an expertise and is a dedicated contact for other professionals in the same field. At French Cluster, we share common goals, self-progress, and helping others in their progression. We aim for leadership, or we focus on excellence, and we want to put emphasis on values such as brotherhood and integrity. And our motto is giving sense to excellence. So thank you again for joining today. The topic of our webinar today is Sustainability in Action, Innovative Solutions for a Greener Future. We'll have the more details in the chat, so please follow along the chat. We want this to be very interactive, so if you have any questions, please let us know in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that. And I'm going to start introducing our panel of experts. We will put their information in chat. Feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn. So I'm not going to give an extensive bio for each of them, but as they're answering questions, they will be definitely able to share a lot more about their expertise, their background, and the exciting sustainability-related things they are working with at the moment. And last but not least, we hope you can all join us tonight starting at 6 o'clock for our networking event at the Sunset Marquee. The RSVP information will be in the chat if you have not registered yet, but we can wait to see you in person tonight and celebrate and talk more about sustainability in person. So I will present our speakers right now and we'll get started. So we have Maëlys Renaud, who's a program lead at the Biomimicry Institute, the Ray of Hope Accelerator, and also the Los Angeles Climate Tech Cities chapter lead. And Maëlys will share a lot, I know, in answering the questions, because some of you may not know what biomimicry is. I didn't about a couple of years ago, so hopefully Maëlys at some point will have a chance to explain the beauty of biomimicry to all of you. Next, we have Rómulo R, León, CEO, and Chris Lockwood, VP of Coral Reef Development Group. And we have Amandine Richard, Sustainable Design Specialist and Climate Fresk Facilitator. And I'll be the moderator. I'm a business advisor, mentor and coach, especially with impact startups. So I've had a chance to connect with a lot of people in sustainability in many parts of the world. And I'm very honored to be moderating this panel today. So to get it started, I'm going to start asking our panelists first. What are the cool things happening now in your industries? And maybe you can give us some concrete examples. Why do you think it's innovative and promising? And maybe Maëlys, maybe I'll start with you, as I was mentioning biomimicry, and would love for you to maybe tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at the Biomimicry Institute.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice to meet everyone here. Would you like me to do a short introduction of my background, Isabelle?
Can you tell us a little bit briefly about what the Biomimicry Institute does, especially as it relates to sustainability and innovation?
Yeah, so biomimicry is a philosophy or a design process that looks into nature to get inspiration from nature and to learn from nature to find solutions for impact work. So a very concrete example, my background is in chemistry and I've studied the lotus leaf effects. So that means, for example, looking at this strategical, at this biological strategy, looking at the nanostructure and microstructure of a leaf, a lotus leaf, and learning from that to be able to impart hydrophobic effects on different things. For example, I work with this nature-inspired startup, Cellulotech, based in Canada, and they impart a hydrophobic effect from that lotus leaf on cellulosic products like paper or cardboard. And that with that, we're able to, for example, avoid PFAS or wax products on paper or cardboard to have this impact. So yeah, that's a cool example of a nature-inspired solution that I get to work with every day.
Very great. Thank you. Amandine, would you love to share a little bit about, maybe tell us also about the Climate Fresk, because I'm sure not everyone in attendance has heard about the Fresk.
Yeah, sure. So, so for the Climate Fresk, it's a workshop that it's an NGO based in France that developed this workshop that is a way to raise awareness about climate change. So it's a way to demystify climate science, climate disruptions, and is right now, it's more than 1.8 million participants worldwide, and it's spreading all around the world. So since I'm in the US, I'm starting to facilitate more and more this workshop in my regions. And besides facilitating the Climate Fresk workshop, I'm also a sustainable design specialist. So in Europe is more eco-designer. And for the example, promising example, I would love to talk about maybe the packaging in food and perfume and cosmetic industry, because this is my expertise. And I work in exciting development, for example, bio-based, biodegradable material like cork, mycelium, that can help to reduce environmental impact. For example, in eco-design, we are talking about long-lasting materials and design to extend the product life cycle, even the use of the product, and minimize waste. I've been working a lot in avoiding waste, for example, addressing high viscosity product in the packaging. There is always 10% leftover in the container for example, yogurt in brick of toothpaste tubes. So yeah, so eco-design is all about those type of trends to reduce environmental impact. And I think what is exciting regarding my experience in luxury is how to face packaging standardization due to sustainability requirements. So because it's kind of the packaging are getting dull over time with sustainable requirements. So the new challenge for brands is to embrace sustainability without sacrificing consumer acceptance, brand appeal, and brand DNA. And it's very exciting to see how brands can address environmental concern while being extremely creative. And what is there so promising is when you see all the luxury brands innovating in this way. And for me, this is very promising.
Thank you. Very, very interesting to share about the Fresk. Just a reminder before I switch to Chris and Rómulo, for the attendees, if you have any questions, there is a Q&A feature in the Zoom window, so feel free to use a Q&A for any questions you may have. Chris, Rómulo, so I can wait to hear some more examples too of the projects you're working on, and tell us a little bit maybe of the kind of projects you've been developing recently. What does that look like, and how they address innovation with sustainability?
Absolutely. First of all, good morning, everyone. Bonjour. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity of being here. My name again, Rómulo de León. I'm the president of Coral Reef Development Group, and we're a sustainable, efficient type company. One of the projects that we're working on a housing project in downtown Riverside, California, that's on First Street between Main and Market. Is a mixed-use project, mixed-use meaning it have commercial on downstairs and residential upstairs. On the first floor, there's a supermarket. But one of the things that we're doing is trying to make this project a model of sustainability. Basically, it will be a self-sustained building. From that, we mean that, for instance, we build with steel framing. Instead of using wood framing, we're saving the trees, is earthquake resistance, fire resistance, hurricane resistant. We are building also using atmospheric water generators. It will generate its own water. We have systems that produce water from 4 to 1,500 gallons of clean, fresh drinking water per day. So we have this so it can generate its own water. We have the gray water recycling that will recycle all the water already used and paid by the tenants. We're speaking of the water in the showers and kitchen that's recyclable and used and recaptured to be used for anything except drinking. Obviously, the solar panels and EV charging station is common knowledge to many people in terms of the generation of energy and the charging of electric vehicles. We will have a EV charging hub that will allow people in the area to charge. But we have also intermittent pain with the fires that we have in California. Those of us in California are familiar with all the wildfires we have. Azusa just had a big fire. We have intermittent pain that will allow the building that in the event of wildfires or fires in the area, the building will stay standing. And last but not least, we have the integration. We're working with Southern California Edison for the integration of hydrogen, by where the solar panels are powering the machines that are cracking the water to generate the hydrogen, the same way the solar panels are powering the water generator, the atmospheric water generators, and the gray water recycling. So this will be a prototype, a state-of-the-art building that will be completely self-sustained in terms of energy, the creation of energy, and the creation also of water. So this is.
I think we lost Rómulo. Chris, would you like to complete? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But basically, as you were saying, we are sustainability, climate resilient focused. And I have a lot of state-of-the-art technologies that are being integrated into these housing projects, whether they be ADUs or multifamily 160 plus unit buildings. What my job is, good morning, everyone, by the way, I'm Chris Lockwood. I'm the VP and Director of Finance. So I have to figure out a way to finance and find funding for all of these state-of-the-art technologies, which many of them are new to market. So our traditional lenders aren't comfortable lending. So I work with multiple alternative funding sources and financing sources, such as private investors, CDFIs, or community development financial institutions. We also work with the state and local government because they understand the need for these climate resilient housing solutions, because we do have a housing crisis, but again, also a climate crisis. So they work with us to make it more attractive for investors to incorporate these technologies into the building. Obviously, sometimes they may make it more expensive. However, we combine it with these federal, local incentives, grant funding, so on and so forth, bring that overall project cost down, but also increases the value of the project because you are building with the future in mind. The next climate change disaster comes, you will have that peace of mind knowing your building can sustain itself.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I had, for some reason, my camera just dropped. So, but that is absolutely correct. Thank you, Chris. And one of the things that we have considered also in terms of sustainability for buildings is the creation also of emergency alarm. These are things that in the event of an emergency, call it hurricane, the system will be able to alert you in time to be able to get to safe haven. So the project that we're doing in Riverside will combine a series of technology that we're working on. And these are just the initial and the beginning of some of the things that we're doing. And again, that's just one of several projects we're working on. And sorry for the interruption there.
No worries. Chris picked it up really well. So thank you. Actually, interestingly, I do quite a bit of work in Riverside as well. I'm affiliated with the UC Riverside SBDC, and a lot of the startups we support are sustainability related. Actually, I just was working with a micro farm, which is a good alternative to vertical farming. And as Chris, I love your comment about funding. They were actually able to secure quite a grant from the California Jobs First initiative in Inland Empire. And actually, I'm also working with a modular home project out of UCR. Definitely a lot of cool things happening. Funding can still be a challenge. That's actually a good segue to the next question that I have for the panelists, which is, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges, and I'll just say, kind of as an intro to that, having been around, the country, around the world, working with different startups and innovative technologies in sustainability, I do think that, California, where most of us are, seems very progressive, especially in terms of EV, because the governor had mandated a lot of EV-related things. However, there are a lot of other initiatives in many states that also around wind technologies, solar, that sometimes, make it maybe easier. Anything that, has either a financial tax incentive or a regulation is usually sometimes startups can leverage in terms of, getting to the next level, because even though we are all aware about our climate challenges and wanted to be better citizens, I think creating long-lasting change has still been a challenge, especially on the funding side. So I'd love for any of you to chime in about maybe some of the main challenges you see in terms of moving the needle faster towards maybe a more sustainable world today, and what you're experiencing as a potential challenge in the areas that you work in.
I may say, for instance, on my end, one of the biggest challenges is government regulations to be able to expedite, in certain cases, certain things. Education also on behalf of certain customers or clients, that they be aware that there's technology available, that they can save money and at the same time help the planet. Because our mission, we are very passionate about our mission about climate change. So one of the biggest obstacles has been financing. That's one of the reasons why, as Chris probably mentioned earlier, we are very focused and keen on the financing. Technology, when it first comes out, usually is a little bit expensive. So it becomes prohibitive for certain people of the population. So we try to make sure we find incentive. On another restriction or obstacle we have found is having additional grants and things from government officials or government entities to be able to subsidize some of these technologies that in some cases are a little bit expensive. But those are some of the main challenges that we have seen, mainly from the financing and education and legislation or incentive from government side, in my opinion.
Absolutely, Rómulo, I think you're right on. Any other thoughts about challenges on, Maëlys, anything that you're seeing in, in the accelerator you're working with these amazing ideas? What are sometimes the biggest roadblocks that they may face as they are developing their company and using these technologies?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many changes, and that's the beauty of it, right? I think there are two aspects. There's like the goal to be working more with like proven technologies and developing those proven technologies. And as you mentioned, I get to work with new innovative technologies. But I think we're seeing like amazing growth in terms of climate tech, venture capital, money getting into the space, and kind of like being a sector that's even more like resilient in this very difficult time that we're facing right now. But yeah, I mean, startups are looking for specific pilots and ability to reprove their technology, as well as to be able to measure and report their impacts. And they're at early stages, and they often don't have the resources and the time to do that in much detail. So this is one thing working on. This is one thing that we do at the Accelerator, working with these startups to make sure that they're able to foster those relationships with corporates and investors to both funnel capital towards these solutions and to be able to have those like first proof points for the startups to be able to scale their technologies and to measure their impacts. all of those points, funneling climate capital towards the innovation, fostering partnerships to advance pilots and partnerships, and then measuring impact are three main changes that we support startups with.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna also switch now to a question a little bit more about our Los Angeles ecosystem. So all of us on the panel are actually located in Southern California. I know, again, you may be calling from anywhere in the world, and thank you for joining us today. But in terms of Los Angeles, and you know, it's a big area, as you all know. You know, I would even say LA and Southern California. What do you think makes our ecosystem here unique? Maybe some pros or some cons about LA. We just wrapped up LA Climate Week, so I know many of you were very active this past week. So I'd love to hear a little bit of a download of what you experienced during LA Climate Week. And Maëlys, I'll start with you because you the chapter lead for for LA in kind of climate tech cities, and love to hear what are some of your key takeaways in Climate Week, and what do you think makes LA maybe again a perfect place, but maybe also challenges that we experience here.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, that was a whirlwind. I'm so excited that we just went through our inaugural LA Climate Week. As the lead for climate tech cities, I highly encourage you to check out climatetechcities.org. We are known in LA to run a newsletter that tells you about all the climate and sustainability events that are happening every week. And we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. So over the past 5 years, which is when I moved here to Los Angeles, I've seen growth in terms of LA climate ecosystem. There are main players, including the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, AltaSea, at the Port of Los Angeles, the new Ocean Tech Hub. And we're seeing also like recurring annual events, including the Net Zero Conference happening right now, today and tomorrow. We have the Hollywood Climate Summit, which is a result of LA's proximity with the media and entertainment industry that fosters intersection between media, storytelling, and climate. So we have kind of like those really interesting areas of work happening in Los Angeles that differs from SF or from New York. And I would add to that maybe like the renewable energy space and clean mobility, clean transportation, as well as more and more like circular economy, innovation happening, especially tied to the fashion industry. I highly recommend what's going on at the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator to follow those themes. And again, like venture capital has seen growth in Los Angeles, even though like New York and San Francisco are where the like most like significant amount of capital is being distributed. LA, watch out for LA because it's starting to happen for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Amandine, so Amandine, I know you've participated a lot as well in Climate Week. You've hosted some climate Fresk activities. So, and you coming with fresh eyes, again, being a sustainability expert coming from Europe, what was your impression of LA Climate Week, and what in your thoughts?
So yeah, as you said, I'm new, so I have fresh eyes, and I could share a lot of insights from like my life in Southern California. But regarding LA Climate Week, it was very fascinating and inspiring to see people trying to build robust communities. There is really this desire to build communities. You can see like A-Climate, for example, they are very strong people gather all together and to drive climate actions. I can see like people in, I don't know if it's for the full America or if it's related to LA, but people really want to act. And during the LA Climate Week, we for us, it was an opportunity to catalyze the climate first movements locally, because the climate first movement is everywhere in the world, but also in the United States. So we conduct like 5 workshops, both online and in person with different partners, and aiming to reach as many as possible climate curious individuals, but also people already aware about climate change and sustainability topics. And so it was very interesting experience because, you know, for the climate threats, we have different phases. The first one is problem solving to understand climate change and how it works, causes and consequences. The second phase is more like emotions. We talk about eco-anxiety. And then we have also creativity activities. And the last part is brainstorming to empower people with actions they can take after the workshop as an individual or in a collective manner, like in an organization, with a non-profit organization, with a neighborhood. So we have like a few insights, the voice of the participant from LA Climate Week that we can share. And basically, action were focused on sustainable consumption, energy transition, and once again, community-driven systemic change. And I think Marine can share like the few a small analysis of the insights in the chat. I don't know if she can copy paste, but yeah, if she can, we can share it with you. And so as I say, the LA Climate Week was a way to accelerate our movements because we just start to facilitate in the region. And now we are supported by the French consulate. We have more and more partners. We collaborate with recognized institutions and schools like UCI, UCLA, Lila. And we aim to organize much more events in the region and partner with more people to educate people because it's so important to raise awareness and empower people at different levels to to start change the way the way we work, to change business as usual, I would say.
Thank you. I got a question from Shana, and I think for Rómulo and Chris could probably answer this question. Are you working to educate builders, architects, developers, contractors to encourage them to use the sustainable materials and approach, you know, in building, I guess, you know, when there are developments? And is there a government support or any kind of, again, incentives for as well building things to, you know, to use a more sustainable approach? So I'm sure Rómulo and Chris, you have some experience on this topic.
That is correct, and I will have Chris share some additional information in a minute. But yes, one of the things that we have been doing is that we have been part of doing some seminars. We have been part of several different organizations where education is becoming more important. One of the things that Governor Newsom once said is that we need to start with education and teaching our contractors and developers to start building with newer technology. So most of the contractors always want to be or are still using old technology, still building with wood framing, still building with things that will require retrofitting very soon, or that will require replacing in the event of natural disasters. So yes, we have been part of a couple of different organizations, and we are part of these groups providing and helping with the dissemination of information of new technologies and new way of doing things. Don't know if Chris wanted to add anything else to that.
Well, just the second part of the question was, do we have any support? And yes, we do. We are very close with actually State Treasurer Fiona Ma in her office, and we met with her multifamily side and her residential side. And they have a lot of great programs and incentives, and they're actually working with us to bring other CDFIs, which are, again, community development financial institutions, to be able to educate those very contractors, developers, and even the normal homeowners about how can you incorporate these sustainable technologies and benefit from it as far as funding and grants are concerned.
Thank you. So actually now I'm going to ask all of you, right, as a leader in your industry, which concrete actions can be easily implemented in a business, right? So our attendees may have their own business, they may work in a bigger corporation, but what are some of the things that, you know, can be kind of an easy step towards something more sustainable that almost everybody could take, you know, as a first step? Any Amandine, I know you mentioned, right, like the point of the climate fresk is also to leave people with ideas on what they can implement, and a lot of people want to take action. So would you have any example of things that you've seen people do after or develop in response to the fresk?
So I can take an example. I have a friend, he's senior purchaser in automotive, and he does he did a few weeks ago the Climate Fresk workshop, and for him it was a eye-opening to understand the company strategy, sustainability strategy, and also for his personal objectives, like reducing CO2 emission alongside the supply chain. So it's a great tool for companies to inspire and inspiring the stakeholders, and also to make them understanding the strategy. And I have an example of a friend. She's the person that trained me as a facilitator. She's a supply chain manager at LVMH, and she's the one in charge of the climate fresk internal deployments at LVMH. And for example, for the HR, it was an easy way to train people with new skills and knowledge, and then to deploy the knowledge at all stakeholders levels, the board level, but also like people working in factory, for example. So this is a very easy, I would say, to implement in a company. Also can be a public workshop. We just need a table. We need a table, a deck of cards, a few hours, and then we can just play. We say plug and play tool. We can play the workshop, and it's a great way to understand the topic. And yeah.
Thank you. Maëlys, we have a question, and then I'll switch. Actually, Corinne's question will be perfect for Chris and Rómulo. But first, Maëlys, so question from Elias. What are some aspects that made this inaugural LA Climate Week different comparing to what may be existing already in New York City?
Yeah, that's a great question. All right, so yeah, New York has seen that New York Climate Week for a while now, so it's very established. We might have had about 100 events here in Los Angeles last week, which is an amazing, successful achievement based on the fact that we've heard about the LA Climate Week was initiated about like 3 months ago, officially and publicly. So yeah, everyone like rose to organize events, host, and that was a pretty like successful events. The difference I would say between New York and LA Climate Week are not only like the amount of events, so maybe up to 1,000 events are hosted during New York Climate Week. I'm heading there on Friday, and it's going to be a monster to tackle, and I'm really excited to get there and to feel the vibrancy of New York during that week. Due to the organization that started LA Climate Week, we've seen a lot of like educational and climate career-based events, as well as we've had more like storytelling and entertainment/climate focused events due to Hollywood being here. And we've had also like a lot of like activism and like nature at the forefront based events compared to New York, where we also have like a lot more like large corporates now hosting large events. They're like really huge hubs, but also like a lot of green finance, green investments, impact investment, and like policies, climate policy events. But New York Climate Week is so big that we see like events on every single like theme possible that has an intersection with climate, which basically is, yeah, has thousands of nuances. So yeah, excited to see LA Climate Week grow next year. I think a lot more organizations are going to like jump in and bring a focus on also like innovation, maybe low-tech, high-tech climate solutions, as well as like focus on more like decarbonization topics, which is key.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. A question from Corinne, probably for Chris and Rómulo. Where can we find information specific to real estate in California and sustainability related to real estate?
Well, in terms of information of real estate, there are different than Zillow and different other places that are specific to real estate. But these are information regarding climate change. The city of Los Angeles and several different other agencies do have information on sustainability. We do have also from the housing area, the city of Los Angeles and several other cities like Long Beach and others do have information also on grants and other incentives that they do by having ongoing green in certain construction, whether if you're doing an ADU, a new construction, or just doing a remodeling. So there is a lot of different places that you can access information, in addition to a lot of green tech companies that provide information specific to housing.
Yeah, just to add, I'm also part of a couple organizations and nonprofits as well. I won't mention them here, there's no free advertising, but we can definitely talk about it more. And even organizations like the French Cluster, I know Béranger has a few connections that'll be able to answer your question and give you access to those resources as well.
Thank you. And
I'll jump in to say that the USGBC, so Green Business California, Green Building California has a lot of resources and educational content and events happening like every single week. So highly recommend that when it comes to green building and like green real estate.
Wonderful, thank you. And I know Rómulo, Caroline will probably connect with you as far as inviting you to speak she's a New UCLA Extension alumni of architecture and interior design. So
Great.
Yeah, remember, we have our LinkedIn profile in the chat, so feel free to connect with all of us, before the end or after, we're happy to, to talk to you more about certain topics. I think we're doing pretty well on time, so I'm going to see if there are other questions that the attendees can post. I know we have the Q&A feature where you can post your questions like many of you have done. I think there is also a raising hand feature if anybody needs to raise their hand or want to ask a question. I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on a topic that could be a full webinar, but I'm going to ask this question and we'll do our best to answer it maybe fairly concisely. But are you seeing any standards in terms of comparing, measuring companies' performance in sustainability? Again, I think this is a little bit of a difficult topic to answer in a quick question, but for example, Chris and Rómulo, because we have you here specifically in construction, real estate, are they any kind of norms or standards that can testify of a sustainable approach? I think there is some things in the building industry that people can follow in terms of standards and then get certified, or at least show that their approach or their building is meant to be sustainable. So anything that you're experiencing in terms of measuring that sustainability that is promised in terms of the execution of the project?
Yes, there are many different certifications. There are the LEED certification, for instance. There are different energy efficient and energy saver, that some of those mainly for appliances. Buildings, for instance, in downtown LA, Santa Monica and others, they need to meet LEED certification. So there are many different levels of certifications from a construction and real estate, commercial or residential standards. And many of them are through, like I was saying earlier, many of them are through the city or the county that you're working with, or that your project or the project site is located. But there are many, the most common one for commercial buildings will be the LEED certification, because that integrates many of the different products. You're looking at insulations and windows and doors and flooring and the construction material. These are materials that all need to be eco-friendly or environmentally friendly, or certain type of finishing that will capture CO2, for instance. So there are many different certifications depending on the level of commitment and the requirement that certain cities have, and the commitment of climate change and
and resilience that the developer may have. So there are different ones, but again, the LEED certification is one of the most commonly known in construction.
Thank you. Amandine, I'll ask you, because you're also an expert in eco-design and building products with the eco-design approach. In your experience, have you experienced, again, how performance is measured or sustainability is measured in terms of eco-design, for example?
So first thing to do is an international sustainability audit or circular audit. So this is very important to identify quick wins and areas for significant impact. And then very small thing in design can have a huge impact. So if you take this, I don't have it, but this multicolor pen, I don't know if you remember the design, the blue one with 4 colors. So just removing this small piece on the top, there is a round shape on the top of the pen, and just removing the plastic inside the bowl reduce a lot of CO2 emissions. So the most important thing is audit before and assessment after to see how much we reduce. And then is to follow the policy regulation to try to reach the goals. And what was fascinating with the French government, because I'm more expert for the European and French government, it was the desire to go beyond the European regulation. So, and this is very important. So I would say assessment, audit, assessment, and follow the regulation.
Yeah, I will also chime in my experience, and I work with very early stage startups, meaning, organizations that are just, maybe starting or coming from an idea or a new technology. And I usually recommend, because we don't talk, big data when we're very early stage. But what is important for me is, of course, you need to show that you're going to build a solid business, but the impact part of your business can be easily explained through something like impact logic models or theory of change. So we have put together ways that, you can make a case for your idea can again become a scalable, sustainable business. And this is how also the impact you will create will grow alongside your business. So there are easy tools to do that. And then obviously later on, you'll be able to measure against your goals. But I'm all for simplification, because I think in storytelling, and that's something that is also, in my experience, maybe different here than in other parts of the world, is that I encourage, business people, entrepreneurs, founders, to be very straight to the point and to have a story that's, of course, exciting. And most stories are exciting in sustainability, but to get people excited, really be able to explain, in a short amount of time, why you're doing this, what you're doing, and how it's different, and then kind of the impact component along with it. But showing that you have a plan, showing that you have a solid plan, and that, that you're having that confidence that you can execute that plan. And that actually is a good segue, I think, also for Julie and her great question, which is something we're going to touch base on. So thank you for asking that, Julie, about maybe switching career. So I see more and more folks today, right, coming to me and saying, well, I do want to make a difference in the world, right? I do want to, spend my career in helping solve these bigger challenges. And especially maybe you have had a more traditional career, been in a corporate industry, and now you want to go into climate tech or climate. So what are some of the ways that people can do that, or have done it? And I know, Maëlys, thank you for answering. So Maëlys, I'll turn it over to you, because I know you're going to say some things. I know there are some really cool newsletters out there, including yours, and some great job boards as well. So Maëlys, if you want to answer Julie's question live, please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I started to answer in the written form, but a lot of people are coming to me via LinkedIn to they're mid-career, late career, and trying to understand how they can get involved. And so this is one of my favorite questions. There are, of course, newsletter, and I linked mine in the chat, but there are also different fellowships or communities that could be a good place to start, including Climate Vine, Tara.do was one of the organizers of the LA Climate Week this year, work on climate. And I think it's really important to think in terms of what you bring, in terms of like what your background is and what your experience is, and what are some transferable skills that you have. So for example, you're like in marketing, so like how can you apply like marketing to climate? And there's like a great marketing group out there, and they have a Slack workspace called Tofu. Highly recommend checking them out. But yeah, I think it's really like what it's not, you're not starting from scratch wherever you are at. You're going to start from where you are at right now. And if that's like 20 years of tech and like software engineering, how can you transfer that to working for like a climate tech startup or like established company? So yeah, thinking about yourself and what you bring, also what is your interest in climate, and so maybe it's going to be more the circular economy, or you have like a desire and like passion to work for the ocean space, and kind of like thinking about those intersections is where I even started again, like even if my own career is in like sustainability and climate, like I've pivoted a couple of times within that space. Because it's such a broad space. And I would add also every job is a climate job. So you might find opportunities to bring climate into your own work.
Even if it's hosting a climate Fresk in your company to start with. But
Exactly,
I agree that
Yeah.
I think, I think if that's, what you want to do now, the opportunities are going to be more, there will be more opportunities. And I really think, I applaud you, to start thinking about that. And I think hopefully we'll start having more of an abundance mindset where we can have great jobs, great businesses, but doing impact at the same time, which in my opinion doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So Chris or Rómulo, how about you in terms of the organization you work with, or even maybe hiring directly in your company? What are some recommendations you may have for folks who want to have really a career dedicated into sustainability?
Well, one of the things I will say is number one, first of all, will be the passion, because at this moment, the passion will be critical because we're in a transformational time frame right now, but where we are transitioning from the old ways of doing things, the old technologies, and encouraging here into new technology where the younger generation find that appealing and very good, but we need to be able to increase that passion for the mission of moving forward with climate change, sustainability. And these are things that is important to be able to bring renewable energy, create energy efficiency, to be able to have water efficiency and all of the resources that we currently have, whether it's energy or water. So this climate resilience is something that we're looking for people that not only maybe have the educational background, but also the passion, because you may have an educational background in other field, but if your passion is for climate change and helping the planet and increasing the ecosystem and the ecodiversity, then that will be an interesting person in terms of hiring. I do not know if Chris wanted to add anything else to that.
Yeah, there are definitely some certifications out there that you can get that also makes your resume look a little better or gives you the knowledge that you want. For example, one is called ESG, or Environmental Social Governance certifications that are out there, and they're all about the sustainability focus. You'll be able to get your foot in the door in the new position or career that you want, and with that background.
And Amandine, I'm going to also put you on the spot for a second, because in your case, it's actually a little bit different. You were in sustainability in Europe and you came to the United States. So I think your challenge was slightly different, because now you are here in Southern California, actually looking also for a career opportunity, potentially in sustainability. But so what are some maybe recommendations or tips or things you could share with people who wanted to move their career into more of a sustainable domain?
Okay, so first I will just specify that my background is in marketing, consulting, and for over 6 years. And I start my transition to sustainability in 2020 with doing a lot of training and certification. And this was my way to transition. And then when I work in Europe, and then when in my field, so in early stage innovation, eco-design, and then when I arrived in the United States, first I couldn't work, so I had to wait a bit, and I started doing volunteering activities. So this is why I start facilitating workshop in Sweden, in fact. But when I arrived in the United States, I wanted to continue my investment, my commitment in education, environmental education. So I did a lot of volunteering activities. And one of the key things is curiosity. Look at what is happening around you, connecting with people, networking. So then you can oversee the possibilities, the opportunities around you, and get to know the project in your region. So this is very important. So I would say for me is the education to get the knowledge, and then the networking and to know what is going on around you. And I think if I am talking about job seeking, I would say that much more interesting and sexy opportunity while sending spontaneous application instead of applying directly to a job offer on LinkedIn. Even if it works, I think it's worth it to contact people directly. And I think this is a good tip.
I do agree. I talked to a lot of people who look for jobs in any field, even beyond sustainability. And today it seems actually very challenging to secure a job if you don't have some kind of contact or a connection to the company or the job poster or anything like that. So this was a good topic. Thank you for sharing your opinions. Now we only have a few minutes left. I don't think we have any. For the participants, if you have any last questions, or feel free to put it in Q&A. I'm happy to ask the panelists about that. So Marine, thank you, is putting some information. She's co-facilitating the Fresk with Amandine. So if you're interested, check them out. Any closing comments or anything that you would have liked to mention, any of the panelists, and you want an opportunity to mention anything before we close our webinar today? No.
I'm so bummed I won't be there tonight, but feel free to connect with me, LinkedIn or any other ways, through Isabelle or Bérangère or French clusters. But there are so many ways to get involved, and there are so many ways for a company to take a stand for climate. And I hope that was inspiring, and that you'll just contribute to further those activities and join the newsletter, join the Climate Fresk.
Great.
Rómulo, Chris, anything you want to add?
No, I just wanted to say that this is a wonderful opportunity to engage with every one of the attendees here. I think that between all of us on this call, we could reach out and really make a difference in the world. I think doing a climate resilience is the most welcoming thing right now based on what we're living. So yes, there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of interest, and I think together we all can work and to make a difference. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their time and looking out and being interested in learning more.
Yep, just wanted to second that. Thank you, everybody, for your time and the questions. And we're very honored, and we're looking forward to seeing you tonight at 6 p.m. in Hollywood.
Yes,
That's
so
right.
we have the link in the chat, so feel free to RSVP for tonight. We'll see you at the Sunset Market in West Hollywood. I like Shanna's also last question about why we're excited right now about sustainability. I know Amandine and Maëlys are answering. I think there's finally, I feel like we're kind of reaching a little bit of a tip now and getting some momentum, especially in Southern California, where, maybe in other parts of the country, sustainability has been maybe a little bit more present. So I think, Southern California is a great place to be. There is some interesting public funding coming for sustainability also. So happy to connect with some of you, because I think it is interesting to understand these opportunities, not just on the private side, but also on the public side. So I believe, I mean, I want to see Amandine and Maëlys answer about what they are excited about, but
yeah, I just answered. I would say being able to bring nature at the forefront of the conversation. Why are we talking about climate? Why are we talking about sustainability? And I believe that caring for the natural ecosystems and what's surrounding us is absolutely essential. And so bring nature to conversations where we talk about climate tech, when we talk about decarbonization, when we talk about buildings, like what is the role of nature within that? And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I see Amandine is saying the same thing, innovation and
Yes, it's like when you think about like all those critical topics, climate crisis, and it can bring you like negative emotions and a very negative perception of the future. But working in innovation, and even more in early stage innovation, is having a vision beyond 2030, 2040. And when you see all those positive collaboration and innovation, is a way to feel inspired and trust in humanity and see that we can do good things for our ecosystem. Like biomimicry is an amazing way to innovate.
I would say too that in my experience in the past few years in this is I meet people, amazing people, like-minded people every day. And that's, you know, why I like getting up in the morning and having conversations like this one with all of you. So if you're really passionate about it, there are a lot of people like you, like us out there. So by the way, join us again tonight, because we are going to have close to 100 people networking, talking about sustainability. Great opportunity if you want to create, you know, business connections, you know, job connections. So and also this webinar is recorded and will be posted on the YouTube channel for French Cluster very soon. So you can share with anyone, watch the replay. Thank you again to our panelists. I'm extremely grateful that you'll be able to be here, share your thoughts. We'll have, you know, toast tonight at the event. And Maëlys will also cheer for you, even though you can join us. But thank you for being here this morning. And thank you for all the work you're doing, Amandine with the Fresk, Maëlys with all the LA CD stuff, and Chris and Rómulo, you know, one development at a time. But that's what it is. It's like we're going to end up scaling big time, and we're starting to get that momentum. So thank you all. And I hope to see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.